Let me stop you right where you are. Before I tell you a single thing about what happened on my stage that day, I want you to do something for me. Close your eyes for just 1 second and picture the person you love most in this whole world. Maybe it's your daughter. Maybe it's your son. Maybe it's that grandchild who runs into your arms, full sprint, arms open before they even reach you. Now picture them standing in front of you. But something's wrong. They're pregnant. 9 months pregnant. Bigger than they've ever been, carrying a weight the whole world can see. They are standing on a television stage in front of 200 strangers, and the reason they are there, the reason they drove 3 hours and put on their best dress and smiled for the camera crew, is that they are trying to earn enough money to bury a child they already lost. A baby boy. Gone before he ever got to breathe the air. And the man who is supposed to be holding their hand is doing something else entirely. What would you do? Hold on to that feeling. Because that is exactly what I was looking at. If you have ever watched someone carry grief that would have broken most people and still show up, still try, subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell. Because what I did next on that stage is not something I have talked about many times. Not like this. Not all of it. Stay with me. I have been hosting Family Feud for over a decade. I have seen things on that stage you would not believe. I have seen 200 people hold their breath at the same time. I have seen God move through a room that was supposed to be a game show. But this one was different. 3 things today. What I saw when that family walked out. What happened in the middle of that taping that made every producer on the set go still. And what happened afterward in a parking lot that no camera ever caught. Marcus had been with me for 9 years. 9 years of pre-show walkthroughs. 9 years of telling me when something felt off. 9 years of knowing before I knew. He has a gift for reading a room before the room knows what it's doing. He pulled me aside about 40 minutes before we taped. He said, "Steve, the husband on Family 2. I need you to watch him." I said, "Watch him how?" He said, "He called her sweetheart in a way that wasn't sweet." He asked the segment producer twice if there was someone else he should be talking to. And when she answered a question in the green room, just a warm-up question, nothing, he looked at her the way you look at something you own that's embarrassing you. That was Marcus. Not vague. Never vague. Specific. I told him I'd keep my eyes open. The husband walked out first. Derek, the kind of physical presence that fills a doorway without touching the frame. A watch on his wrist I know the price of, not a watch you wear to a game show unless you need people to see it. He was smiling before he even reached his mark. Not the smile of a nervous person. The smile of someone who has already decided this room belongs to them. He shook my hand 2 pumps too long. Held eye contact 1 beat past comfortable. Polite, sober, well-spoken. He made a joke that landed and laughed at it with his whole body. But Marcus had been right. Something underneath. Not arrogant. Worse than arrogant. Certain, then she walked out. Her name was Brianna. 26 years old. 9 months pregnant. Her dress was yellow, the cheerful yellow you pick because you want to feel like you tried, even if trying took everything you had. Her chin was tucked. Her eyes didn't quite land anywhere. They moved, but didn't settle, the way eyes move when they've learned that settling on the wrong thing gets you in trouble. She had a face that should have been glowing. 9 months pregnant, a baby on the way, that face should have been lit from the inside. It wasn't. And one more thing. Her right hand was pressed against her side. Not her belly, her side. The way you hold a hurt bird when you're trying to keep it still and safe. Like she was holding something together that would come apart if she let go. Lord forgive me. Something is real wrong here. But I am a professional. We had a show to tape. I told myself the thing we all tell ourselves. It's not your business, Steve. Don't go inventing tragedy. Do your job. Lord, forgive me. I let it go. The game started, and Brianna was brilliant. 9 months pregnant, carrying grief and whatever else she was carrying, she was fast. Sharp, she hit that buzzer like she'd been training for it. And for those few minutes, I watched something beautiful happen. I watched that fear melt right off her face. The crinkle in the corners of her eyes when she was truly smiling, not performing one, but actually feeling it. Brianna looked like she was breathing, like she was a 26-year-old woman who was good at something and was being seen for it. The crowd was cheering. Not polite applause. Cheering, and Derek? Arms up. Slapping the podium. That's my wife. You see that? That's my wife. But when Brianna got an answer right, Derek didn't look at her. He looked at the crowd. The credit flowed from her to him, and he stood in it like a man standing in a sunbeam. That was the first sign. I filed it away. The game shifted the way games shift, the other family pulled ahead, the momentum changed, and Brianna missed one. Just one answer, one moment where her timing was off by half a second. The crowd gave her the sympathetic groan that means they're still with you. Rooting Derek went still, not loud, not yet, a stillness, the stillness of a very cold room. He leaned toward her, not close enough that a camera caught it, but I saw it, the stage manager saw it, the audience in the first 2 rows saw it, and said something in a voice barely a voice. Just enough to reach her. Just enough to make her chin tuck back down. Whatever he said, she didn't respond. She turned back to face me. The crinkle around her eyes gone, like someone reached over and turned off a light. The crowd didn't know why the energy shifted. But they felt it. I felt it. I told myself again, you are the host. This is a game. Do your job. It was Brianna's turn to give the final answer. The question was on the board. The money was there. The game was right there in reach. She leaned forward, took a breath, the kind you take before something brave, and looked out at the audience and said, "We're not just playing for the money." She paused. We lost our son. 2 months ago. He was stillborn. The breath went out of that room. He never got to have a funeral. A real one. We couldn't, she stopped. Pressed her lips together. We want to bury him right. We want to do it right. Dead silence. 200 people. Not the silence of shock only. Something bigger. The silence of an entire room suddenly understanding why this woman's eyes hadn't settled, why she held her side that way, why the yellow dress was the bravest thing in the building. And then Derek leaned to the microphone. In front of the room. In front of God and everybody, and said, "She exaggerates. It was a miscarriage. People have miscarriages. Let's just play the game. I will not tell you what moved through me. I will not name it, because it doesn't have a clean name. It was not anger. Not quite. Something older than anger. Something I have been carrying since I was 11 years old in Cleveland, Ohio, watching the people I loved be made smaller by people who needed them small. The woman in the yellow dress flinched, 9 months pregnant, grieving a child, and she flinched like a person who has flinched before. Like flinching is something she has learned to do fast, to get small fast, to make herself less of a target fast. That was the sound I will never forget. Not Derek's voice, not the words. Her flinch. That quiet, small, involuntary surrender. 12 seconds. I have watched the tape since. I know the count. I stood there for 12 seconds and did not move. 3 things moved through me. The first was the comedian. I had 3 sentences ready that could have reduced that man to exactly what he deserved on a public stage. The clip would have run 6 months, but I have watched what that kind of fire does. The audience claps and the clip runs, and 6 months later you are still tasting it, still wondering why it didn't fill the hole it was supposed to fill. Because revenge is not a meal, it's an appetite. So I let that go. The second was my father. He came home every night for 30 years, smelling like the Ford plant. He did not lecture, he lived his lessons. But one night at the kitchen table, still in his work clothes, he said something I have carried for 56 years. He said, "Boy, when somebody tries to make you feel like less than you are, the worst thing you can do is prove it back to them loud. Because then they get to tell the story the way they wrote it. You walk away with your back straight, and they're the only one left in the room with something to prove." I thought about his back. Straight as a door. Every single time. The third was Brianna, a 26-year-old woman in a yellow dress who had driven here with hope, who had said her son's name out loud in front of strangers because she needed somebody to hear it. She has been flinching for longer than today. She has been making herself small for a long time. Told she exaggerates, told her grief is nothing. Today, on my stage, with 200 people watching, I was the one who got to choose what the answer was. I made a decision. I set the card down. Slowly, the way you set something down when you are finished with it for good. I walked across that stage. Every step deliberate. Not rushing. Not performing. I covered that distance the way my father walked, back straight, chin level, nothing extra. I stopped 5 feet from Derek. Not touching. 5 feet. I looked at him for a moment. Just a moment. And then I said, quiet, no edge, no fire, the way my father used to say things when he had already decided, her son had a name. And he will have a funeral. 9 words. Derek started to say something. I didn't wait for it. I turned away from him. That's important. The way you turn away from something you are completely finished with. And I walked to Brianna. I got low. All the way down. 1 knee on that stage floor, so I was not standing over her, not towering, not making her look up at anything. I took her hand. And I said, quiet enough that only she could hear, but the microphone caught it anyway. Your son existed. You hear me? He was here. He mattered, and I give you my word, as a man who has a daughter, that before you leave this building today, we are going to take care of his funeral. All of it. You hear me? My word. She didn't cry. I want to tell you that because it matters. She went very, very still, the kind of still a person goes when they have not been safe in so long that safety feels like a language they forgot how to speak, and they are trying to remember the words. And the room, 200 people in that studio rose to their feet. Not for me. Not for the show. For her. For a 26-year-old woman in a yellow dress who had said her baby's name out loud and refused to take it back. Share this right now with one person who needs to hear that they are not invisible. One share. Then come right back. Because what happened in that parking lot is the part nobody filmed. An hour after we finished taping, I was in the parking lot, a Tuesday evening in late spring, the light going golden the way it does in Atlanta when the day is almost done. I saw her by a silver car, a 2008 Buick, a little rusted at the wheel wells, the kind of car that gets you where you're going and doesn't ask for gratitude. Her mother was with her, an older woman in a cardigan even in the warm evening, holding a purse with both hands the way some women hold purses. Like holding on. Brianna was standing very still, one hand on the car door, one hand resting on the round of her belly. She wasn't crying. She was looking up at the sky. I don't know what she was saying to it, but whatever it was, it looked like a conversation. I walked over. Her mother saw me coming, and her face did something I don't have the right word for. Not surprise. Something past surprise. I said, "How are you doing?" Brianna looked at me. She said, "I haven't felt him today." The baby. He's been real quiet. I said, "Babies get quiet right before they come." She almost smiled. My mama says the same thing. I looked at her mother. Her mother nodded very slowly. Then Brianna said something I have thought about many times since. I didn't know if you believed me. In there. About my son. I said, "I believed you the second you said his name." She looked back up at the sky. She said his name. Once. Quietly. Up at the sky. I am going to keep his name between her and that sky and me. But I heard it. And I said it back to her. She put her hand on her belly and said, "He's going to know his brother's name." I had to stand there for a second before I could answer. I said, "Yes, ma'am." He is. Derek did not come back for the second part of taping. I am not going to tell you what was said between our producers and his representation. That is not my story to tell. I will say only this. I did not cancel that man's life. I said 9 words on a stage, and I walked to a woman who needed someone to walk toward her. 6 weeks later, our segment producer Cheryl called me on a Sunday morning. I was at the kitchen table with coffee. She said, "Steve, Brianna had her baby. A boy. 8 pounds, 4 ounces. She named him after her first son. She said the baby looked like every good thing that ever decided to start over." I sat at that kitchen table for a long time after that call, thinking about my father and what he said about walking away with your back straight. Thinking about a baby who had a name because his mama refused to let it be taken from her. Thinking about how much courage it takes to put on a yellow dress and drive somewhere with hope when hope has let you down before. So let me ask you again the question I asked at the very beginning. Go back there with me. Picture the person you love most in this world. Now picture them the way Brianna was when she walked onto that stage. Eyes that won't settle. A hand held against her side. A grief that someone has told her doesn't count. There are Briannas everywhere. There are young women sitting next to you in church carrying a loss nobody knows about because the person beside them has told them it isn't real. Mothers in the pharmacy line holding themselves together with pure will and a yellow dress. Don't be the person who almost said something. Don't be the person who almost walked over. Trust the feeling in your gut when you look at someone who should be glowing and isn't. That feeling is almost never wrong. And if someone tells you their grief doesn't count, you tell them. It counts. It always counted. It had a name. If this story moved you, do 3 things before you go. Subscribe to this channel, because this is a place where the people who almost got missed get to be seen. Share this with one person who needs to be reminded that what they are carrying is real, and it matters, and they are not alone. And drop a heart in the comments for Brianna, for her first son, and her second son, and for every mama who has ever had to say a name out loud, just so it wouldn't disappear. God bless Brianna. God bless every mother who has ever had to say a name out loud, just so it wouldn't disappear. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I'll see you in the next one.